Welcome to Civics in a Year, the podcast that makes civic literacy fast, accessible, and surprisingly engaging. In just 10 minutes an episode, we'll tackle one of 250 essential questions about American democracy, how it works, why it matters, and what it means for you. Whether you're a student, a teacher, or just someone who wants to better understand your country and your rights, you're in the right place. Civics in a Year is powered by the Civic Literacy Curriculum from the Center for American Civics and is produced in partnership with the School of Civic and Economic Thought and Leadership at Arizona State University. Welcome back, everyone. I am very excited. We are getting started on the Constitution, and today we have Dr. Paul Carrese back with us, and we are going to be talking about the Preamble. So, Dr. Carrese, what is the purpose of the Preamble of the Constitution?
Thank you, Liz. Another great, very important question. Everyone listening should get out your text as usual, a pocket Constitution or some other version of the text. The purpose of the Preamble is to spell out the purposes of the Constitution. That's the short answer. So probably many people would recognize the opening phrase of the Preamble, "We the people." That's still widely cited and widely known. Of course, we want to note it's "We the people of the United States." That's important. And then the remainder of the Preamble has 6 particular purposes that the Constitution has, beginning in the phrase, "We the people of the United States, in order to." So Liz, actually at that point, would you pick up "in order to do what," if you would read from there?
In order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America.
Great. So in a basic way of understanding what's going on, there are 6 particular purposes. We, the people of the United States, and I'll talk a little bit more about why that phrasing is important, have these particular goals in mind, 6 of them. That's why we're establishing this Constitution. So let's talk about those. The first one is the Union. This makes sense given the history of the United States since the Treaty of Paris in 1783, and the Articles of Confederation had been ratified in 1781, and it was not all happy, not all successful from 1781, even 1783 onward. We had won the Revolutionary War. Treaty of Paris is an extraordinary achievement, but the self-governing of these 13 states in this union under the Articles was messy, was complicated, and there were signs it was failing. Thus, the problem is we don't have a strong enough government for the union. We don't have a strong enough union. So that's what we've been talking about in earlier episodes with the reason to have the Constitutional Convention, the ratification debate, Federalist and anti-Federalist views. So union is obvious, and first, a more perfect union. We have a union. We're not making it here in this document. We're replacing, but in a sense, extending the Articles of Confederation. So to have a more perfect union, to form a more perfect union, the Constitution does that. Second, to establish justice. You could say that's a criticism of the Articles. We didn't have justice under the Articles. There was no, the Federalist point of view, to be a little blunt, is there was no there. There was no government to the Articles. It had aims to achieve justice among the 13 member states of the Articles, but being more like a league or a treaty among kind of foreign states to each other. There wasn't a government to establish justice. So justice is what's the whole point of politics? To have, in the American view, right, to have justice. Laws that are achieving justice for individuals and for communities and other dimensions of life. Third, to ensure domestic tranquility. Well, this also is pointing back to problems under the Articles. One of the main motivating moments leading to calling the Philadelphia Constitutional Convention in 1787 was Shays Rebellion in Massachusetts. Farmers, some of whom were veterans of the American Revolutionary War, were in such a lousy economic circumstance because of economic disorder, because the Articles government was very weak. They couldn't pay their debts. The paper currency was worthless. That losing their farms, et cetera, et cetera. So an uprising, an armed uprising out in Western Massachusetts. So here are, three pretty basic aims of the American conception of government. We're forming a union. We want justice. Why are we forming a union? To have justice. And part of justice is domestic order and peace and tranquility. So here are three very basic aims of the American conception of politics in 1776. Right? Then the fourth one, common defense. We're going to ensure domestic tranquility with this Constitution. We're also going to provide for the common defense of all the member republics, and they're thinking there will be more states added. So this goes back to Montesquieu, and the major reason to have a federal government, to form a federal union, is for republics, which tend to be smaller than monarchies or obviously empires. They band together to form a federal government, a union, to provide collective defense, in a way. That was the reason why the Articles of Confederation used that phrase, which is a term we think of today related to treaties, right? The Articles of a treaty, one independent foreign government with another, right? So this was a major reason for the Articles of Confederation, except it was just too loose. It was not a real government. Okay, next, to promote the general welfare. This is a really interesting phrase, signaling in relation to union that this is a real government. This is not like the Articles, a league, a treaty between very sovereign, independent, separate governments. There is a general welfare of the United States, of the Union as a whole, and general welfare is kind of the thing that state governments do and did. The technical phrase we use in political science and constitutional law is the police power of the states. The states have plenary powers as sovereign governments to address health, safety, welfare, morals of, right? So general welfare, that's a really interesting one to promote the general welfare. And then the last big long one, secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. So this is a ringing phrase, very typical of sort of rhetoric of the 18th century and earlier, to have a ringing conclusion, the blessings of liberty, not just to secure liberty, but to secure the blessings of liberty. And it's for ourselves, and we want this to last. We do this, we form this partly for ourselves and for generations after us. So those are six really, pretty big, pretty fundamental aims about a new American political order that are the objectives, fundamental aims of American politics.
So, Dr. Carrese, you and I did some episodes on the Declaration of Independence, and this conversation feels familiar because these ideas sound similar to the ideas in the Declaration of Independence. Is that correct?
Yes, indeed. And in a way, you could say the function of the preamble as a whole is to connect the Declaration to the Constitution. This is a major point of contention in the ratification debate coming from the anti-federalists. Are we betraying the principles of the Declaration by setting up this very powerful government, say the anti-federalists, right? What about consent to the governed? What about rights and especially liberty of individuals, right? So the Federalists have their argument. No, we're actually securing the rights and liberty invoked in the Declaration because we're providing an adequate government, an adequate layer and complexity of government to achieve those ends. So the Declaration is central here, and I think that's the reason why you get this ringing phrase at the end, the blessings of liberty, which invokes the grandeur of the the opening two paragraphs of the Declaration, and then the final paragraph with its ringing conclusion, right? We mutually pledge you know, to stand for these principles and to stand for our liberty. We mutually pledge our lives, our fortunes, our sacred honor. So there is a connection, but there is also, you know, something different happening here. We tried it once with the
Mhm.
Articles, didn't quite work. So a big change with the preamble is to start with "we the people." And who is this people? So I would read the Declaration as saying, well, it's the same people because the Declaration is from the representatives of the 13 now states. They're not
Mhm.
colonies. It's the representatives of the states. Who are they representing? They're representing the people of the states. But the word people in the Declaration is used at least in plural senses, but very definitely in the sense of one American people. So there's an implicit federalism in the Declaration, and that's being translated into this first phrase of the Constitution, "we the people of the United States." So crucial change from the Articles. This is not "we the states"
Yes.
as the Articles. The title of the Articles of Confederation is "The Articles of Confederation between," and then it lists the names of all the 13 states, right? No, this is "we the people of the United States." And it's got this plural meaning. Which people? Do you mean the peoples of the independent states? Yes, it means that.
Mhm.
But we, the peoples of these independent states, have given up crucial sovereign powers to this new government, and we form a people, an American people, in a deeper sense than we did under the Articles. And maybe the Declaration calls for that, but now we are definitely doing it. We're establishing it in very concrete terms.
And you brought up that last line, of the Declaration, which is, pledging our sacred honor. Can you tell us a little bit more about the last line too of this preamble? Because, it says, "Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." Why is that so significant?
Great idea. So one challenge for thinking seriously about the preamble is we tend to only use the first three words, "we the
Mhm.
people," and we kind of forget
Yeah.
the rest of it. We forget "we the people of the United States,"
Hmm.
that it's not just "we the people" as kind of democracy in some, vague sense. It's more formal than that. It's "we the people of the United States." And then if we go a little further, okay, we do occasionally invoke some of these six aims or purposes, but we almost never talk about the final clause here. "We, the people of the United States, dot, 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 do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." And then in the middle, why? Or at least summary of why, these six
Yeah.
aims. "We, the people of the United States, do ordain and establish this Constitution." That's very formal language. So this is, again, a big change from the Articles. And this captures something that's in the Declaration. We've talked about this before, that the bulk of the Declaration is invoking the English common law. And in the middle of that Bill of Indictment, if you think about a court of law, right, the common law and a
Hmm.
court of law, the Bill of Indictment against the king and then the king and parliament, in the middle of it is the claim, the charge, that the king has joined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution. So there's a constitutionalism in the Declaration, and here you get the preamble of the Constitution saying, we are a constitutional people. We didn't quite get it right with the Articles. We are constitutional people because they're state constitutions, and the state constitutions pre-exist the Declaration of Independence. So Americans have been a constitutional people since late 1775, and then this idea of our Constitution is invoked in the Declaration. But now we're saying we got to up our game. We need to have two layers of constitutional government. The states, sovereign, and then the states give up some of their sovereignty to make a real sovereign government, real union in the national federal government. And we are now declaring ourselves, we the people of the United States are a constitutionalized people. We're going to have to learn to be citizens of two governments. We are constitutional citizens of a particular state. You and I, Liz, are in the state of Arizona.
Hmm.
We are citizens of the state of Arizona, and we are citizens of the United States of America. And we're going to have to get used to this. So if you think about it, this sounds a little heavy-handed. We do ordain and establish. And the ordain, by the way, is like that final clause of the Declaration. This is a religious term, we think, right? There's something higher here. So there's no reference to divinity in the Constitution the way there's in the Declaration, except there's language in Article 1 about or is it Article 2 about the veto power that the executive has, and numbers of days, excluding Sundays. And there is another reference to Sundays, right? And then there's the final clause of the Constitution refers to the year of our Lord. So but there's a very minimal presence of religion here compared to the Declaration, which has, the laws of nature, nature's God, and then three other references to a divinity, a very active divinity. So, but this is an important kind of religious, metaphysical, higher element, ordain and establish. But again, constitution, it's a big deal to be constitutionalized people. And if we think it's heavy-handed, well, the Union wasn't doing so well heading into the War of 1812, and talk of secession or separation, or states not wanting to support the federal government in the War of 1812, and the Civil War did happen. It's 70 years ahead of this language, but it's a constant concern of many leading founders, George Washington included. Can this Union hold together even under this new Constitution, right? So I think we forget this dimension about the preamble and about our founding. The ambition to be constitutional at two levels. A really constitutional people of the United States means we are a real government as a federal government. And we're going to and this is what you're doing with the Civics in a Year, Liz, right? We need a citizenship education, civic education to form us as citizens of the Union, of the federal government, as constitutional people. This is more than just the word democracy, right? And then we're also citizens of our states. So that's why the whole package of the preamble really matters. Every single word.
Yeah. Dr. Carrese, I grew up hearing the Schoolhouse Rock preamble song. And this now, I feel like, I loved the song before because it's catchy, it's fun, but now it just holds, some new meaning to it. So I really look forward to digging more into the Constitution with you and with other experts that we are going to have on. Dr. Carrese, thank you so much.
That's great. Can I just add something, Liz, about Schoolhouse Rock? So I'm a little bit old. I'm a little bit older than you, but I remember watching those, and there's something great about Schoolhouse Rock that I just have to mention, which is this preamble itself is capturing this, some balance between order and liberty. And Schoolhouse Rock was produced by very, very talented musicians who came out of, Broadway and jazz. And it's this, combination. The music is often very sort of jazzy. It's got a bit of a pop and rock flavor to it, but very jazzy. That's American, to have this blend and balance of the sort of spontaneity and freshness and liveliness of that music. And of course, they're doing something completely new. And they're doing something that seems very informal and democratic. They're making sort of pop music about this very formal thing, the Constitution and civics, right? But it's freedom with order, and to serve order. So I think of jazz as the quintessential. I don't mean to offend people who are fans of rock music or, God forbid, bluegrass or something like that. Anyway, country music, goodness gracious. But like jazz is this quintessential American music because it's this blend of order and liberty. So I love Schoolhouse Rock.
Well, now I'm going to go listen to more songs. Thank you so much, Dr. Carrese.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Civics in a Year. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and share it with someone who cares about a constitutional republic as much as you do. For more episodes, resources, and updates, follow us on social media or visit us at civics.asu.edu. Make sure to check out the show notes for any relevant links. Special thanks to the United States Marine Band for their performance of the Stars and Stripes Forever. Let's keep building a stronger constitutional republic, one episode at a time.